Is that FOMO finding you again this week? I can definitely see why taking a look at the hot lists out there this week. There's some pretty cool books on there, but I also think there's some duds. So let's talk about those as I outline my top 5 comic books not to buy. Hi, I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and in this series of videos, I do take books from those lists and I pick out the 5 worst investments in my personal opinion, and then I follow up prices on those for 6 months and 1 year later. It gives us a chance to kind of look at the opposite of, should you buy this book when it's hot, or should you actually sell this book when it's hot, or avoid making the purchase when it's hot at least to save yourself some money down the road. So let's start off this week with the number 5 pick, which is the Amazing Spider-Man the movie, number 1. This is the Andrew Garfield photo cover. And that photo cover is why it is on the list. There is a upcoming CGC signing with Andrew Garfield, and people are banking on this book becoming really hot for that signing. And of course, that makes perfect sense. Here's the only problem with that. The signature fee for this book alone is $250. That just seems wild to me, especially for, I liked Andrew Garfield quite a bit, but let's be honest, he's probably most people's 3rd favorite Spider-Man portrayer at this point. So I don't know if this is something I'd really go after and spend that much money on. So if you're going to invest in the book and then send it in for the signing, which is going to be a lot of money on top of that, I'd really hope it's high grade. And the high grade books are already going for a ton. So I don't see this book as something that's going to hold a lot of value down the road. I don't think this is going to be a signature that's coveted. If Andrew Garfield had reprised his role again as Spider-Man beyond the No Way Home appearance, maybe we'd see more of a life for this book, but I just don't see it happening. All right, number 4, we're going to talk about the DC Pride special. It's the 1 in 50 Jen Bartel cover. In this 2023 special, it's a gorgeous Jen Bartel cover that you get with this 1 in 50, by the way. I just don't see this as being anything other than a really hot cover ratio when it first comes out, and it's going to trickle. A lot of people that really were into this probably pre-ordered it, or they were among some of the first collectors to buy it. I don't see this one having the kind of legs that a lot of other covers do. DC high number ratios have not been performing very well recently, and I'm going to lump this right in there with there. This is something that's great for fans. It's a fantastic cover, and I think you can pick it up at a discount later on. All right, we're spreading out the Spider-Man books here, the Spider-related books. This one is going to be Edge of Spider-Verse number 1, and we're talking about this one because of the first appearance of Spintress. Now, Spintress is slated to appear in the new Edge of Spider-Verse series in issue number 2. That to me is really weak speculation. This character is continuing to appear in comic books, therefore it's a hot character. I just don't see it for this character. Right now, as I've said in previous videos, there's so much saturation on spider characters that I'm going to avoid all the minor spider characters for the time being and stick to the big players, right? Your Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Ghost Spider, Miles. I'm going to stick to those characters and maybe, one tier down, somebody like Spider UK, who's kind of a fan favorite, Spider-Ham, that kind of stuff, but I'm not going as far down as Spintress personally. Okay, so let's talk about another rare comic book, right? This is World Tree number 1, the thank you variant, which is a 1 per store retailer thank you. So the same thing I always say about 1 per store is they're never really as rare as you might expect, and I feel like World Tree is, I hate to say this, a book that entered the zeitgeist pretty hot and has kind of just been out there in the news cycle a little too long almost, without much more buzz about the story or the characters or anything like that. Just more speculation fueled buzz. And if that's all there is to this, then I'm hopping off that train. I have a copy of number 1, the A cover, and I'm gonna be fine with that. I think going forward for this book. So right now I'm backing off of the World Tree. We'll see how this one performs, though. I am interested to see if this holds price. Speaking of holding prices, that brings us to a book that I've seen be pretty steady over the last year and a half or so, and that book is Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 98. This is the first appearance of the Spot. Spot appears as a villain inside the new Spider-Man movie. We've known that for a long time inside the new Spider-Verse movie. That's been out there in promotional materials and trailers and all kinds of stuff for quite a while now, so that's not a spoiler or anything like that. I haven't seen the movie yet. So this book, to me, it's like, okay, we've had the character come out. I haven't seen anybody going crazy over this book since then, so I think this is one of those safe things to assume that like that was the hype for the character, and that hype has died off. And yeah, I actually have a copy of this that I need to sell, and I waited too long to sell it, so I might try to sell it now while there's still a little bit of money to be squeezed out of it, because I don't think I need to keep on holding on to that book for the rest of my life or anything like that. And yeah, so that gives you some advice and some insight into how I do things sometimes. Like if I see a book that's on here, I'm gonna throw it on there if I think it's a bad book to buy, but I actually have a copy of that and I'm thinking it's a good book to sell right now. So that kind of gives you an idea of like where my head's at when it comes to when I make these lists and how I feel about the books if I owned them. And I often do. I usually own About one on average, I would say, from the list of the top 5 I pick. And I usually own a lot more on like the list. It's just that sometimes I feel like those books are great long-term holds, and sometimes I feel like they're great short-term books to sell. And that's how I feel about Spectacular Spider-Man number 98 in the first appearance of Spot. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments down below, and let me know if you enjoyed Spider-Verse and you think that maybe these books are actually going to continue to climb. If you don't agree with me, I'd love to hear about that. I absolutely love to hear the other side, and I always look forward to reading all of your opinions, especially those that differ with me too, of course. On your way down to the comments, you will pass the channel membership join button. If you want to become a channel member, that does help me out, and it does help me pay for some of the services I use to help run this channel. All the names of the people on the screen right now did help support that, and I really appreciate that help from all of those people because it means a lot to me and to what I do here on the channel. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, I just want to remind you, as always, hey, 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 hey. Read comics every day. And we're talking about this one because of the first appearance of Spintress. Now, Spintress is... I would say you're more likely to be doing a good job. So let's start off this week.